Hello and welcome to our College Access for Students with Disabilities live stream. To our live viewers that we have, we appreciate you watching us right here live in real time at 6 o'clock p.m. Central Time on Wednesday, November 5th. If you are watching the recorded version of this, we also appreciate your engagement as well. Again, welcome to the event. We have several guests with us. I am blessed to be joined by some fellow high school partners, some post-secondary partners. Let's get on with the show. Here's the purpose of the event. We want to make sure that every student has equal opportunities to be successful beyond our respective high schools. Everybody deserves a fair shot at success. We really truly believe that all students are capable of success. All career paths have dignity. And I also like to throw in that last note. It is okay to not know. Depending on who's watching this, whether it be high school students or whatnot, it's okay to not know exactly what might lie out there beyond high school. We'll help get you there, and we want to make sure that you are supported along the way. I'll move on to the next slide, and I'll let my partners here introduce themselves in a moment. For those of you watching live, though, you can see scrolling across the bottom of the screen, our live viewers can engage with us in real time. That is the advantage of doing this in a live stream format. So if you are watching this live in YouTube, literally on Wednesday, November 5th, a little after 6 o'clock, you can ask us anything you want by simply entering those questions in the comment section of YouTube. We can see those questions and we can give you a response just like as if we were face to face. So for those watching live, we welcome and encourage you to engage with us, ask us those questions right here in real time. And that way you won't walk away with more questions than you had when you tuned in to this on YouTube. So again, my name is Curtis Menke. I'm the college and career counselor at McHenry High School. Kim, I'm going to let you introduce yourself.
Okay. Hi, I'm Kim Alt. I'm a counselor at Johnsburg High School, and I am also a 504 case manager.
Excellent. Kim, thank you so much. Aaron, you want to go next?
Yes. Hi, I'm Erin Tassoni. I also work at Johnsburg High School. I am the transition coordinator. So I work with students with IEPs, and I help them plan what they want to do after high school.
Absolutely love it. We have transition coordinators at McHenry High School as well, and they are unsung heroes. And I'm not just saying that because Aaron's here.
Oh, thank you.
Kristen, you want to go next?
Hi, I'm Kristen Mueller. I am the Director of Admissions and Recruitment at McHenry County College, and I'm also going to be covering information from our Access and Disability Services office. So happy to be here. Thank you.
Yeah, MCC is such a great partner for us, for Johnsburg, for all McHenry County high schools. I know, just speaking for McHenry High School, last year's graduating senior class, almost half of them told us they were coming to MCC next, and we want to make sure they're supported once they get there. Emily, you want to go ahead next?
Yeah, hi folks. My name is Emily Leong. I use she, her pronouns. I am one of the non-resident admissions counselors for the University of Wisconsin-Whitewater. I represent Whitewater for students in the McHenry County area.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Whitewater is one of our strongest local four-year partners. They have an absolutely outstanding Center for Disabilities office there and the supports they provide their students, which is why we have them with us tonight. Lennox, do you want to go ahead?
Yeah, my name is Lennox Seaton. I use they, them pronouns. I work at the Center for Students with Disabilities, and I'm the transition outreach specialist. So I'm usually kind of the first point of contact for students, and especially when students are thinking about applying to our office, I meet with families to kind of decide whether Whitewater would be a good fit for them.
Excellent. Lennox, thank you so much. And again, it's great to have somebody who works in that office here with us tonight. And for the families tuning in, again, whether you're watching this live or whether you're watching the recorded version. I'm going to move on to the next slide. Aaron, I believe this one is you.
Yes. All right. I'm going to talk a little bit about the IEP process for seniors in high school. The last IEP, you're going to have the summary of performance. That's how we do it at Johnsburg. Other schools might have the summary of performance at another meeting, but that is more part of the IEP, but separate documentation where students with the IEPs, we kind of have a little glimpse of their last evaluations, their disability, It's all organized on a nice separate document. It talks about the accommodations that they've had in high school and what would be helpful in the future. This doesn't guarantee that they'll have that in college, but it's a nice form that puts everything in one place. There's also a spot where we have information for, like, for example, I might put MCC, the Access and Disability Service contact information in there. I kind of work with the students and they know where they want to go usually, and I will find all of that information. So if they want to go to Whitewater, I would put that information on where they can find those services if they want to get accommodations in the high school. That's about it for IEPs. It's important just to ask your student, if you're a student or if you're a parent, ask your student to make sure that they talk with somebody at their case manager at the school or anybody, so they kind of have a plan of where they want to go and what accommodations are helpful in high school. That's all I got.
Excellent, Aaron. Thank you so much. Next up is Kim. Kim is a counselor at Johnsburg, but also a 504 case manager. Kim.
Yes, I'm a 504 case manager, and we don't do summary of performance as formal as the IEPs, but at their last 504 meeting, before they graduate, we make sure they know that they can go to our district office and get a copy of their student file from student services. You can get a file from the whole history of getting accommodations, and the students can take that to their college and request their accommodations. We also let them know that student services keeps the file for about 5 years before they're destroyed. But I do try to convince the parents to keep things as the years go on, but we do encourage them to get copies of the files as soon as possible.
Kim, can I just jump in? That goes with IEPs too. You can, if you lose your IEP or lose your paperwork, you could contact the schools, and they will keep them for 5 years.
And right on cue, we have a question in the comments. I absolutely love it. Again, that's why we do this in a live stream format. Again, for our live viewers, as a person just demonstrated, you can ask us these questions in real time. The question reads, when does the meeting take place, specifically the SOP?
Yes, I can answer that.
Yeah, Aaron, go ahead.
For Johnsburg High School, we usually do it at their last IEP meeting. However, some IEP meetings might happen in September, October, and the student doesn't really know where they want to go. We can have that meeting at the end of the school year, but it just needs to be happen before they graduate. So that's something you might want to ask your case manager when you're at the IEP. If it doesn't happen, then they might be having it later at a later date.
Excellent. Thank you. And I know that's pretty similar at McHenry High School as well. I think that's pretty standard practice for most Illinois high schools. Again, that meeting can take place at different point in senior year, but again, we do our best to kind of time it so that it makes sense for the family. All right. And thank you for that question to the person who posed that in the chat. If that did not answer your question, please please drop another line in the comments there, and we will respond. Kim, did you have anything else on this slide?
No, I didn't. The health plans are the same thing as the 504s, going and getting copies of everything.
Yeah. And having that paperwork, having that documentation prepared to bring with you is kind of the common theme, whether, regardless of what the high school accommodation plan was, whether it's a 504, a health plan, or certainly an IEP. We're going to transition now to Kristen at MCC. We'll learn a little bit about the school itself, as well as how they support students with disabilities. Kristen.
Yeah, so I'm going to cover just a little bit about McHenry County College and then dive more deeply into how we support students with accommodations. So those of you listening, you're probably an in-district student with McHenry County College. And so we're relatively close to where you live, and we're very supportive, smaller size classrooms. Most of our classes are about 25 people or so. And as an in-district resident, you would have in-district tuition prices. So that would be a lower cost compared to most colleges out there. All of our buildings are connected, so everything's pretty close to one another. And we have lots of different opportunities for students, people who are taking classes to starting at McHenry County College and then transferring on to other four-year institutions to complete their bachelor's degree. We have students who are taking classes that intend to go straight into a career area. So many different options as far as what we can help students train up for, as well as exploration. If students don't really know exactly what they're planning on doing once they get to college, but they know they want to go to college, they know they want to continue their education, we can help students explore their opportunities and kind of figure out what their next steps are going to be or what their long-term plan is going to be. So again, if you don't really know what you want to do yet, that's okay. I would encourage you to continue with education, and we can help you figure that out as you go. I mentioned a little bit about those different opportunities. Again, we have those degrees that are designed to be a transfer plan. So for students who are taking their first 2 years of college, or if it's even just a summer class and then transferring on, or maybe just 1 year of MCC and then going to another college, we can help students transfer at any point in the process. We do encourage students to complete a full associate's degree before they continue on elsewhere. But then again, we have over 30 career-specific degrees. You'll see the names of those careers in the title, like fire sciences for someone who would want to become a firefighter. And so those are 2-year degrees that are designed to get you straight into that career. Although, if you are a part-time student, which is okay, if you just want to take 1 or 2 or 3 classes at a time, you can get through these programs. It would just take you a little longer than 2 years typically. And then we have over 90 certificate programs, and those are shorter versions of our degrees that only focus on that content area that's career specific. So these can last as little as 1 semester, or they can be multiple semesters depending on how many courses are in that certificate. So a lot of different opportunities based on what the student's long-term plan is. And again, if a student's not sure, if they're exploratory, kind of undecided, that's okay. We can help them get going and help them figure out what makes a best fit for them. So just keep in mind a lot of different options. I don't have time to talk about those today, but a lot of different paths for people. And something else to note is that as a community college, which McHenry County College is, we do accept all students. So everybody who applies to college is accepted within the next business day or so. And we don't use any factors for admission. So we don't, it doesn't matter what your GPA is or where you attended school or, any of those factors. We don't take, essays or anything. You just apply to the college and you'll be accepted. We do have access and disability services, which I'm going to spend a lot of time talking about. And I mentioned that lower cost of it's $121 per credit hour. So that's not nothing. But we do have lots of different ways for students to make that price lower through financial aid options like the FAFSA and other opportunities, through college scholarships as well as outside scholarships. So acknowledging that there are a lot of ways to reduce that cost of college. And I mentioned those smaller class sizes because when students are exploring their college options, they should really think about that as far as what would be the right space for them to be successful, as well as that flexible scheduling. So if you are the kind of student who would be more comfortable with that 1 or 2 classes, or these classes are great in person, but I can take this other one online, then we can be that potential flexible option for a student. All right. And then if someone is a senior in high school, it is time to start that application process. You can use that QR code to go through those steps in detail. But so seniors apply to the college soon. If you are junior, sophomore, freshman, we'd be more than happy to talk to you about these opportunities, welcome you to campus. We want to give you a tour, kind of go deeper into those program specific areas, and you can talk with our Access and Disability Services office. So our contact information is here. If you do want to reach out to us, please do that. But I'm going to spend some time talking about Access and Disability Services. So keep going on for there. So what is Access and Disability Services? And you'll see us use ADS. That's what we're referring to as Access and Disability Services, is the office on campus that provides reasonable accommodations for otherwise qualified students and community members that have documented disabilities. So we partner with our instructors, our staff, different student organizations, and across the college to make sure that students have access to accessible and inclusive environment for everybody. So we are part of the Americans with the Disability Act. And so it's a little bit different from high school. In a couple of slides, I'll kind of compare the rights and the differences between what college rights are versus high school rights. But no matter where you're going to college, there's usually some form of disability services. So at McHenry County College, it's Access and Disability Services Office. Now, how does the Access and Disability Services Office assist students? Again, they would work with a student to provide accommodations according to that student's needs. So every student is different. So we can't tell you right now, like this is what a student would get, because it really depends on that one-on-one conversation with our Access and Disability Services Office. But through options that we do offer for students include academic coaching. So that could be managing the schedule to help figure out when a student needs to do their coursework versus, study for their midterm, and kind of go through that long-term process of being a successful college student. We provide math and writing tutoring support, note-taking support, assistive technology like screen readers or Braille if needed. We have deaf services on campus. We can do extended test times or individualized testing rooms, different types of advocacy on campus. So it really varies greatly depending on what the student's need is, and it's very individualized. In addition, we have a lot of disability related events and celebrations on campus. We have student groups that meet, that get together, that you know that are there for each other. So a lot of great ways to be successful in the classroom, but also to make connections with one another.
Kristen, I'm going to jump in for a second. We just had another question roll in the comment section, which again, we strongly encourage our live viewers to do. The question is paras or PAs. So I'm guessing that means assistants, I believe is what that's referring to.
Right. So college is different than high school in that we very seldomly have assistants or professionals working alongside students. It really, again, depends on the student's particular needs, but that is one of the differences between high school and college. And I don't know, Whitewater, if you want to jump in and answer that as well.
Yeah, there may be very rare cases where we might have something called an in-class aid, and that might be something where, for our students, usually it's physical disabilities, where it might help with assistance. For example, I actually was one when I was a grad student where I helped with a specific like art class and helping like grab materials or things like that. But very rarely is that like I would think in the time that I've worked in disability services, we might have a few students every year, a few, and I would say maybe like 3 or 4.
Good question. Thank you.
Yeah, the person just followed up. It's for a student with they're inquiring about a student with physical disabilities. So
Okay.
if that did not answer your question to the person who posed that, please feel free to follow up with us, and we'll keep trying till we get it right.
So the family's role when it comes to supporting a student in college with a disability, please know that in college we do follow what's called the FERPA. It's a law that limits the ability for college professionals to work with anyone beyond the student unless the student gives expressed permission for any just for people to share the information of those particular people. So it really depends on, talk with the student. It's really up to the student to determine how much they are allowing the college to share with others. But we want the family involved. We want our families to be support and encourage their students. And if the student is willing to include you in meetings, then great. We would love that. But again, it's up to the student to determine that all of that information. And as a college student, the student's right has equal access to courses, programs, services, activities, and facilities, as well as reasonable accommodations that provide equal opportunity, as well as appropriate privacy of disability information. Again, we keep this information extremely confidential. It's really up to the student to share this information with instructors as far as the amount of information the student's willing to share, and the accommodations we provide access for the student to be just as successful as another student would be. So that is how the rights work at the college level. And I think it's important to be aware of some differences between high school and college and when it comes to access and disability services. So in high school, the school typically identifies students with disabilities, but in college, a student must self-identify. Um, the college will not know that a student had any prior disability services, an IEP, 504, things like that. The college does not aware of that at all unless the student brings it up themselves and connects with the Access and Disability Services office to start those accommodations. And we want students to do that, absolutely. But just knowing that it's not an automatic transition of information from high school to college. In high school, the family and caregivers are highly involved in the process. But again, in college, the emphasis is placed on the student to self advocate, and this college is bound by privacy rules. So just being aware that there are different privacy rules in college compared to high school. In high school, there's a case manager that oversees accommodations, but in college, the student must identify access and disability services if there are accommodations concerns. Again, it's the students must self advocate. Um, Go for it, Curtis.
Yeah, just jumping in there. I think this is one of the biggest misconceptions sometimes that we run into as well. Is kind of like sometimes families are used to the schools just kind of passing documentation along from one to the next. I see Kim nodding along there. It's the accommodation plans get passed on from elementary school to middle school, from middle school to high school, and again, with what you're saying, Kristen, families and students have to provide that documentation directly to the college themselves. In other words, we at the high school level do not send it directly over.
And the student does not have to give the college that information. It's totally on them. So if they do not wish to give that information, that's totally their choice. Um, but I know that our Access and Disability Services office often does recommend that if you've received accommodations in the past in high school, to talk with their office and then have the ability to use accommodations college, and it's up to the student to use the accommodations or not. So they find it's very helpful for students to have the ability to access these accommodations and choose to use them as soon as possible versus maybe struggling and then finding out later that they wish they had that sooner. So something to think about. And there, so my final point here for the difference between high school and college is that in high school, primary and secondary schools guarantee success for the student, essentially, whereas the college and post-secondary institutions guarantee access. So it's on the student to be successful in their coursework and at the college, but the college does provide access for the student to have that success. So this is a pretty heavy slide. And so just know that to start the process in college, especially at McHenry County College, you would go to the Access and Disability Services webpage, which is mchenry.edu/access. And there's a button there that says something like new to Access and Disability Services. And that's where you schedule an intake appointment. Intake appointment's kind of a scary word to just say a one-on-one meeting with somebody from the Access and Disability Services office. And they would just have a conversation and they bring in documentation that from high school or from anything in the past to say, okay, this was the IEP that I had, or 504. This is some information that was support that was helpful for me when I was in high school. And then in college, they'll use that to create those appropriate accommodations for the student. So that's where it's that individualized support. And then it's on the student to then seek support from there to talk with their instructors to provide this information. And then from semester to semester after that, just follow up with the Access and Disability Services office to make sure that your everything's up to date.
We had another question come in here, Kristen. The question, and again, I hope I interpret correctly. Again, electronic communication. It says if there is, and I think Kristen may have actually answered it. I'll read the question anyways, just in case there's any other follow up. If there's an IEP, it says this information. The question is this information shared or not shared with ADS? And then would the student have to provide that information directly to the professors?
The student would provide the IEP or any documentation to the Access and Disability Services office, but the Access and Disability Services office does not share that IEP or the specific diagnosis information with instructors. Instead, they will only share information about accommodations to say, this student's been approved for extended test time or something like that. So they don't share any of the specifics for students scenarios with the instructors. It's up to the student if they choose to share that with their instructor, which can be helpful, but they only share accommodation information. So I have here the contact information for the Access and Disability Services office. They are more than welcome to answer any questions. They do wish they could be here tonight, but something came up and I'm happy to cover their information for them. So take a picture, screenshot, whatever, and then reach out to them anytime you want to, or to myself, and I can help relay those questions too.
Excellent. Kristen, thank you so much. We did have another question roll in, and we are going to transition to our folks at Whitewater right now. I know Emily, who works in the admissions office, has a couple of slides. Lennox, I'll give you a heads up for your slide, for when you join us in a couple of slides here. The question was essentially, is that the same practice at Whitewater? So just something to have in mind for when we get to your slides in a moment. All right, Emily, let's hear a couple of things about what Whitewater offers.
Yeah, so I'm just gonna kind of go over some more general information about Whitewater, but I definitely have a couple of things that cover a little bit about just CSD and the things that we're proud about. But I will just kind of go over kind of where Whitewater is locationally for you folks. We are just about an hour from McHenry. If you just hop on, I believe it is. Oh, now I just dug myself a hole trying to think of geography. But you basically drive through Walworth, Wisconsin, and then you'll basically be in Whitewater. But then we also do have our Rock County campus in Janesville, Wisconsin. It's about 35 minutes west of Whitewater. Time-wise, about the same time drive between McHenry. So a lot of our students from the McHenry area really enjoy being close to home, but still having enough distance from home to feel like that they are able to learn how to live on their own and be independent. I'm originally from Brookfield, Wisconsin, so that was about the same story for me. But we also, I think, have a pretty advantageous location in terms of we're kind of in the middle of everything as far as southeastern Wisconsin and northeastern Illinois go. So on a recreational standpoint, it's really easy for students to visit friends at other campuses. It's really easy to, go to shows and things like that. I'm a big concert goer, so I always kind of plug Milwaukee and Madison for those types of experiences. But also on a professional level, when students start looking at internships, grad schools, jobs after graduation, us being, 2 hours from Chicago, an hour from Rockford and Milwaukee, and about 45 minutes away from Madison, Wisconsin, really helps students find those opportunities and really be accessible to those opportunities. We are sitting about 11,700 students, so we are a mid-sized campus. Definitely gives us some good balance, I would say, in terms of you're going to feel like when you're at a larger event here at UW Whitewater, you're going to feel like you're a part of a larger community at hand. But this midsize also allows us to offer some smaller class sizes as well. We serve a lot of different types of students on our campus. About 36% of our students are first generation, meaning that they're first in their families to go to college and pursue a degree. Over 1,300 of our students use our Center for Students with Disabilities. And then just under 400 of our students are veterans or actively serving members of our military. So there's a lot of student resources for all types of students from all walks of life to make sure that they are finding as much success in the classrooms and also socially as well to make sure that they feel like they belong here. So on that same note of CSD, I'm sure that Lennox will probably mention this as well, but we are the only school in Wisconsin that's ranked within the top 50 best disability-friendly campuses in the United States, and that ranks us higher than any college in Illinois. So I'm really excited to have Lennox and I here to share a little bit more about that tonight, but I also do want to mention that we are ranked 4 out of 5 stars for LGBTQ inclusivity, so we want to make sure that all of our students feel safe and welcome on campus as much as possible, no matter how they identify. We also do offer a lot in terms of making sure students are getting connected in a social way. Obviously, the social aspect of college is the second biggest draw for a student looking at a college campus. So we are known as a pretty athletic campus. We have 20 intercollegiate Division III teams. One of those teams being our wheelchair basketball team, which has a coaching staff of Paralympians, I might add, some silver and gold medalists. So that is always something that's super exciting. We also do offer club sports and intramural sports. So at no matter the competitive level that a student is looking for, we have something to offer. Besides athletics, we also have over 180 student organizations from professional orgs, so students can meet people of similar majors, to identity-based organizations, to Greek life, to interest-based organizations for just looking to meet people with similar hobbies. There's a lot of ways for students to really find those that social aspect on Whitewater's campus. Looking at a academic level, we have over 79 majors, over 180 minors, and many, many more certificates for students to really study what they are interested in moving on to as a profession. I won't go too in depth about each major. So if there is a specific major folks are looking for, feel free to put those in the chat, and I can confirm if Whitewater offers that or not. But we are very well known for our journalism department and our College of Arts and Communication, our theater program, as well as and music education is also a big one within Colleges of Arts and Com. This is also home to our marching band, which is our most popular music ensemble. And there are marching band and many, many more music ensembles that you don't have to be a specific music major to be in order to participate in those. So if students are interested in continuing music, but don't want to study it, there's always ways to do that. Our College of Business and Economics is, I think, the biggest staple of our campus. We are the largest business school in the state of Wisconsin, and we are accredited by the AACSB. That is a really big accreditation that recognizes UW-Whitewater as top 5% of business schools in the world. So anything within our business school, whether that be management, marketing, finance, accounting, there's really, really great ways to get connected with professionals, internship opportunities within those respective programs. Our College of Education and Professional Studies is what our university is founded on. We are founded as a teacher's college. We continue to be a teacher's college, and we license the most first-time teachers within the state of Wisconsin. So depending on age range or subject that a student wants to teach, we can help license in the state of Wisconsin and also in the state of Illinois as well. And then finally, our College of Letters and Sciences is home to our natural, physical, and social sciences, most popularly biology, psychology, computer science, criminology, as well as a lot of our foreign language options. We offer I think foreign language is our most popular minor option. We are introducing classes back again for ASL on our campus, so we're super excited for that as well. And there are tons of other, majors that we offer within letters and sciences that are all very integrated within undergraduate research as well. Across campus, and my lights went out. Across campus, our average class size is 28 students. So pretty typical high school classroom size for McHenry, I'm hoping. And then all of our classes are taught by faculty and instructional staff. So that means that we do not have TAs or grad assistants that teach our classes. These are faculty members who have been in their respective professions or have been doing research under a specific subject for many, many years. And that is definitely something that becomes impactful for students when we start thinking about those professional networks, internship opportunities, these are the people that get students connected to those. 90% of our students complete some sort of high impact practice. And those are, the things that I've already been kind of mentioning about internships and undergrad research, but also study abroad. These are kind of the bigger experiences for our students to think about when thinking about building their resumes. And in turn, our students are really finding success after graduation. 98.8% of our graduates are employed or in grad school within the year of graduation. So question in the chat that I'm seeing is about the political science major. That is something that we offer here at UW-Whitewater. We offer a main political science major as well as a legal studies major. And we also offer certificates in lobbying and advocacy as well. So there's a lot of ways for students to get connected. I would say a lot of students like to be working on local campaigns around, election time, as well as far as like national campaigns. I know I had a lot of friends while I was a student that were canvassing for presidential elections back in the day. So that's always something that I've always kind of enjoyed. I think political science is a really interesting major. So yeah, if we can go on to the next slide, Curtis, thank you. The biggest thing I would like to emphasize about Whitewater is our value. We are considered the best value out of the universities of Wisconsin based off of what we're able to include in combined tuition and housing. So just to give you folks a rough sticker price, combined tuition, housing, and then a meal plan for a non-resident student is going to be about $27,000 for a full year before any financial aid or scholarships. All of that is going to include what you folks see on your screen here. Biggest money saver for our students is textbooks. 95% of our required textbooks are covered through our textbook rental, which is included in tuition for students. Pretty much all of your entertainment as a student on campus is going to also be included in that price, as well as tutoring, printing, and laundry. Something that I also want to emphasize here is, especially since I have an audience of mostly non-resident students and parents watching and support members, is that we do offer non-resident scholarships for our new freshman students. So if a student from McHenry applies to UW-Whitewater, basically what we'll do is we will take their unweighted GPA from their transcript and award them a corresponding scholarship. That scholarship is renewable, so a student can receive that for up to 4 years, as long as they maintain a 2.5 GPA or above. So if there are any specific questions about that, please feel free to put those in the chat as well. I also will put my personal office information on there. So if you folks needed an email or a direct phone line, I would be the person for you to contact there. But if we could move on to the next slide, please. Then the last thing that I just want to mention for folks is just the application process. Our application for UW-Whitewater is as easy as it has ever been, and it is also free. So all you have to do is jump on either the UW app or the Common app, and then you can submit an application and then with a copy of your high school transcript. If a student is transferring from McHenry, for example, that we also will need transcripts from MCC. But we are, test optional and essay optional for all students. So really easy to do. Seniors could do it right after this live stream if they wanted to. And we will try to get them a decision within 7 to 10 business days of completion. So.
All right, Emily, thank you so much. Lennox, you're up. Let's hear what kind of disability supports UW-Whitewater offers.
Yeah. So like I said, my name is Lennox. I'm with the Center for Students with Disabilities. You can please change the slide for me. That'd be great. So similar to MCC, our mission is really to provide an inclusive and accessible experience for our students by making sure that they have an equitable opportunity for them to fully participate in their education and university life. So the supports look a little bit different for every student. And so we'll kind of talk about different levels of support as well as different accommodations. I'll tell you right now, I do have a cat, so she might meow. I apologize ahead of time. She was being a little demanding earlier. But next slide, please. So we already kind of talked a little bit about self-disclosure, and then also I'm going to try to get that question that was beforehand. So as before mentioned, the idea that like students don't have to necessarily disclose. I have a lot of students that maybe think that first semester, they're like, oh, I might not need accommodations. I'm going to try it out. And, you know, sometimes they can be successful and that's amazing. And sometimes they realize after that first semester, okay, actually, I might have been more successful if I had accommodations. And we're here, whichever journey they decide to get accommodations right away, or maybe if they they want to have that access later. And so once they are with our office, every semester they will go through something called ARP, our accommodation request portal, and they will request their accommodations. It's basically saying that they're disclosing and saying, yep, I'm saying to my disability service coordinator, these are the accommodations I want to send out. I'm agreeing to these accommodations, because they can pick and choose. They might say, for this class, I actually don't want this accommodation to be sent to my professor. So then once they let us know what accommodations they want to be sent out, part of my job is to send that accommodation plan to their professors. And so then that opens the door for them to also have that conversation and do that self-disclose to the professors. It can be as simple as saying like, hey, my name is Lennox. I'm in this intro to biology class. Just want to let you know you should get my accommodation plan for my disability service coordinator this week. I have a testing agreement that I'll need you to sign. And if you have any questions, I'd love to go through that with you. Or you can also reach out to my disability service coordinator. It can be as simple as that. And then also I always say this, that students are it's a big responsibility when they get to college to monitor their performance and attendance and work. And so one of the difference from going from high school to college is, as a disability service coordinator, I don't have access to your we call it Canvas at Whitewater. I don't get access to your grades. So it can be a little bit of a transitional change for students when they don't realize I can't check to be and monitor the same way. And so hopefully when we're doing check-ins, your student will be honest. And if they're struggling, they'll let me know. But sometimes they also have to disclose to me and self-disclose when they're struggling, so then I can provide those supports as well. Because, we can only do so much if we don't, as long as we know what's going on. Next slide for me, please. So what I do as a disability service coordinator, I like to kind of describe my job similar to a school counselor, but specifically for disabilities. Specifically that focus. So I work with usually a caseload of 100 to 200 students. I work with students on creating an accommodation plan and figuring out what accommodations are going to be best, referring students to accommodations and resources on campus and off campus, because let's be frank, students need services both on and off. And usually we're really great at, even if it's not our office, pointing students into the right direction. We're really fortunate that we're able to serve 13% of the student population, which is fabulous. It's amazing. Because of that, we actually have a really large staff, which is unique to our university. So there's about 8 disability service coordinators. And so we are able to do case management and to do check-ins. I probably do 30 check-ins a week with students, and I can do weekly check-ins, bi-weekly, monthly. It really depends on how much your student wants to engage with me, frankly. And so we can do a lot of progress checking and kind of see what can be helpful for your student. We also help with like self-advocacy and working on independence skills. We really focus on strength-based approach. And again, like I said, I'm not checking attendance or grades. It would be kind of crazy for me to run around campus and monitor everyone going to class. I wish I could do that. But that our campus is too big for that, for sure. And also that would be weird, a little too weird. But yeah, next slide, please. So some accommodations that are available and some that are not available in college. So extended time on tests and exams. We actually have our own testing center at the Center for Students with Disabilities that students will then request a week in advance to take their tests at our office. We have actually our own testing coordinator named Patty. She makes sure that all the tests go flawlessly. In a couple, well, about 6 weeks from now, will be finals, and it is like her Super Bowl moment, and she's really freaking good at it. So if your student comes to Whitewater, she will work very closely with Patty when it comes to testing accommodations. We also help students with housing accommodations. So anything from like having certain accessibilities when it comes to like restrooms, or having a single room accommodation, emotional support animals, or AC, that would go through our office. That does require additional documentation and process for approval. And if your student is interested in that, that's something we do talk about during the intake process. And I'm more than happy to like set up specific meetings to talk about those. Like I said, we do have our own testing center. So we have low distraction rooms for testing and private rooms as well for students. We do sign language interpreting as well as captioning for students. And then we also have assistive technologies. So Genio is our note-taking accommodation app, which is super helpful. And then Kurzweil 3000, I cannot sing the praise enough. That single-handedly got me through grad school, which is, I like to call Audiobooks Plus, where I can read to students. Some accommodations that are not provided in college is modified curriculum, retakes for exams, using notes or note cards on exams, extra time for assignments, modified curriculum, and personal care aids. I always say to students, if these are accommodations that you're currently using in college, some of them, maybe having a conversation in your IEP meetings and talking about the idea of like, how do we scaffold and talk about like maybe reducing using them, not saying to take them away right away, but maybe processing the ability to lessen them as you're going through your senior year. Because specifically, it can be really helpful to experience that in a more safety net way before you jump right into the deep end going into college. So I always start having those conversations with students, especially prospective students, when I meet them at the university level. Next slide, please. Some other supports that we do provide. These are fee-based, but we have a summer transition program. So that is once students decide that they're going to come to Whitewater, it's the summer before. It is usually right after 4th of July. It's that month of July where students come for 4 weeks. They're living on campus and they're taking 2 college courses. They're not fluff course classes. They're actual college credited courses. They're taught by us, the disability service coordinators, and they're in a cohort of 30 to 50 students. And so the first class in the morning is what I like to lovingly call How to Be a College Student 101. And then the afternoon class is Disability and Identity. And these are a great way for your student to transition into the college setting without just feeling like they're jumping right into the deep end, with a little bit more of a supported transition. Because it's, like I said, taught by us, the disability service coordinator. There's also transition mentors who have been through the program. There's tutoring through the process. And also your student walks in with already 7 credits underneath their belt. So if they're a student that says, hey, I struggle with math, it allows them to maybe say, instead of taking 15 credits, maybe taking 12 credits their first semester, so they can really focus on a class that they might be struggling. We also have an adaptive transportation program called Warhawk Wheels. I'm very biased. I ran that program when I was a grad assistant, where it can help with students where maybe it has to do with mobility, getting around campus or off campus. Also, maybe sometimes getting them to different placements for their like internships or for other like school activities. And then we also have Project Assist, which is tutoring. So there's tutoring on campus, which is like content-based tutoring. So if you're taking a biology 101 course, and then there's tutoring that we provide through our center, which is more foundational tutoring, foundational math, English, and organizational or like executive functioning tutoring. And we have it both a drop-in lab, we also have it one-on-one tutoring. So it kind of gives students some additional support and wraparound support. Next slide, please.
Lennox, we have a question. I'm sorry to jump in there. Someone asked, what if a PCA is needed? Student paid PCA, is that allowed?
Yes, absolutely. So what would just happen is we would work with housing to be able to get that, allow them to get access, just so then they can get like, that can be the case. Sometimes we can also work with housing to get them parking passes. That way they're not having to pay like every couple hours a parking pass. So that's totally fine. We just have to make sure that like they are passing like a background check with the college.
Excellent. Thank you very much. And again, to our viewer who asked that question, please follow. There is an additional, if the student needs 24/7 care, how might that be impacted?
If they need 24-hour care. So if they need 24-hour care, it's really, that is going to be working the family figuring out their system. Again, it's really making sure that what might happen is just working with housing to get a single room accommodation. So then they're not worried about necessarily having a roommate. So it's not impacting another person, allowing that then to just get card access for their personal care attendants to be able to come in and out. Because I assume there's not going to be just one. There's probably going to be multiple coming in and out. And then also we have different like bathroom accesses and stuff like that, getting them card access as well. So how to apply. So we say to students, please wait till you decide once you get into Whitewater first, and then decide you're going to come apply to our office. With that, we do ask in the application to also submit documentation. So that could be IEP, a 504, like a physician's documentation. We're not necessarily super picky. We just need some documentation. We might ask you to submit more, especially if it comes to housing accommodations. And then once you do apply, you get paired with a disability service coordinator. We send you a really nice, sweet email saying, this is who you're paired with. And then we tell you, hey, we need you to schedule an intake. And the fun part is your freshly 18-year-old student, or if they're a transfer student, they might be a little bit older, has their first big responsibility of reaching out and either calling our front desk or reaching out to their disability service coordinator to set up that intake. Our intakes can either be in person or they can be virtual. We want it to be as accessible as possible for folks. And so during that time, the intake, I like to say it's a really honest conversation about good, bad, ugly, nervous, excited, and that transition from high school to college. And so we talk about everything a little bit in between, because there might be some accommodations that are super transferable, some that are not, and then maybe some that were not offered at your school. And so we want to kind of tease all those out and be able to have a really frank discussion about it. And then this is our contact information. Below is my specific contact information, like so if you do want to get in contact, especially if you're wanting to do like a prospective student meeting, a lot of times the nice thing is if you schedule with admissions, you can indicate, hey, I'd like to talk to someone in disability services, and they will reach out to me automatically. So it's a nice way if you're trying to get a sense of like, does Whitewater feel like a great fit? You can kind of kill two birds with one stone.
All right, Lennox, thank you so much. I love hearing the perspectives from our local community college, as well as what accommodations look like at the four-year schools. This is our last slide. So for those of you watching the live stream, thanks for hanging in there with us. As the scroll at the bottom of the screen says, we will make one more solicitation for our live viewers who may have any remaining questions, please ask those in the comment section right there in YouTube, and we can respond to you right here in real time. To give our live viewers one more chance to think of and to ask any questions. And as I am speaking, another comment question just rolled in. It is just a thank you. So we appreciate your engagement as well as your active engagement with this as well. So thank you. And also I will just say it was great to see Chris at club yesterday. So to a personal note to our viewer who's been asking a lot of questions, that was really special to have him with us after school yesterday. So to buy our live viewers one more time to ask us any questions, I'm going to ask our panel. I'm going to pick on one or two panelists here, and I'm going to ask you the question. I'll give you a chance to kind of formulate your thoughts. The question is, what is the biggest piece of advice that you would recommend to a student with a disability who is transitioning from high school to college? So that is the question to ponder to our panelists here. To buy our live audience another moment to ask us any remaining questions right there in YouTube. I'm gonna start with Aaron, if you don't mind. Aaron, again, what advice would you give to a high schooler with a disability as they may be transitioning to college?
Right. I would definitely say that they need to know what their disability is and understand what their disability is and understand what their accommodations are. You know, this is the time where the college rep said it's on their own now. So they need to be able to express that and know what it is. Because a lot of times they've had this IEP for a long time. They might not know the specific terms that they're using, but and ask questions because they're always there to help.
Excellent. Aaron, thank you so much. Lennox, I'm going to go to you because you just gave possibly the biggest head nod in the history of head nods as you were listening to Aaron's response. So Lennox, how would you answer that question?
I think one I said before was the idea of if you're having any of these accommodations that I said are not provided in college, working on the idea of scaffolding, kind of reducing them as you're kind of going towards the end of your senior year, super helpful. But also, it's maybe not a piece of advice, but something to think about. We talk about this a lot in our office, and it sometimes can be not everyone's favorite thing to talk about, but important to talk about. The idea of supported failure. The idea that we can provide as many supports as possible. And sometimes students might not be their first time in the gate. They might fail. And that's not saying that they will fail every time, but they might fail because maybe they're not, they might not know and be prepared by saying like, they don't know what their disability is. They're not as prepared for some of the things because they had a lot of support systems, and this is the first time they're doing it kind of a little bit solo. And so talking with your student about the idea of how they can really engage in their support systems for the first time going solo. What does that look like? And being able to do that process, because there's a lot of support in college, and sometimes students don't know how to engage that the same way as they did in high school. And so just thinking about that is super important.
All right, Lennox, thank you. And we did just have another question roll in here. Does college, and I think we could probably go to any of our college panelists that can respond to this one. Does college have an IEP or something similar that shares the students' areas of concern, especially if they're not comfortable speaking up? If anyone would like to respond to that, feel free to unmute and jump right on in. You can also read the question in the comments on the right side for our panelists.
Yeah, Curtis, I think the biggest thing for me, if reading this, just thinking about shares areas of concern, I think that just like, and I totally just lost my train of thought. I had something and then I just totally lost it. I think though that part of this learning process is students learning how to be comfortable bringing it up. And so if it's not with, the center, if it's not with CSD necessarily, if it's starting off somewhere with, our academic advisors do a very holistic approach to getting students connected with resources. And, obviously the support system of family itself is always important. Because I was kind of pondering the question that you had posed earlier, Curtis. I think part of the biggest thing for students is to ask, but not necessarily knowing who is okay, and assuring their student not knowing who is okay, because it's my job, it's Lennox's job, it's every job for us at the university, and I'm sure Kristen can attest to this as well, to make sure students get, directed to the right place. So it's not like necessarily like a structured thing of, similar to an IEP where students can put down their, areas of concern, but I think, I don't know.
Okay, Emily, thank you for that. For our panelists, the person who asked the question just entered another comment, I think, to clarify what some of those needs are.
I think that helps clarify a little bit, because I think depending on the student's needs, if there's a need for the Access and Disability Services or equivalent to advocate with the student, there could be a transition period where that happens. It really depends on the student's case. So this could be a case, I mean, again, I don't know this person, but there could be an opportunity where some additional support is alongside, just what the standard process might be. I hope that makes sense.
Yeah, thank you, Kristen. Lennox, I don't know if there's anything you want to add to this one.
Yeah, so we don't call them IEPs in college. Every college calls it something a little bit different. At Whitewater, we call it an accommodation plan. I'm not sure what MCC calls it. And I would say for this specific question, it can look a little bit different. I would say it tends to be a combination of, there's an accommodation, or the accommodation plan is sent out to professors. But then also there usually can be times where we'll set up individual meetings with the professors to kind of gauge what could be the case of some things, to try to troubleshoot potential issues. So that can be the cases. I'm thinking of a couple students in mind where this has been the case before the semester starts. We can do that.
Excellent. Lennox, thank you so much for that. I'm going to ask Kim one more question to again see if our live viewers have any other questions or comments they want to throw at us in the comment section right there in YouTube. Kim, the question is kind of more from the general school counselor perspective. You wear many hats at Johnsburg High School. So if from the general school counselor perspective, as you're working with seniors, what kind of feedback would you give to a senior who in high school had some kind of accommodation plan as they transition to their next institution?
Well, that's a pretty big question, but I guess I would want to know if students can consult with different schools' disability offices before they decide on their college. I would probably advise them to try and do that, because I'm sure it's different on each campus, how their needs would be met. So besides understanding their disability, I would probably advise them to check out the disability services at each campus, if that's possible.
Yeah, I know every disability service office that I've ever been in contact with welcomes questions. So I think that's a great approach, especially if the needs might be a little more unique. We want to make sure that students feel supported and they feel like they can be successful, and that it's the right fit academically, from a needs perspective, as well as a social perspective as well. All right, Kim, thank you for that. I do not see any more comments or questions waiting. So on behalf of my colleagues at Johnsburg High School, at McHenry County College, and at the University of Wisconsin-Whitewater, we are grateful for your participation. To our viewers, if you're watching this live, we really appreciate you hanging in there with us live, as well as the questions you've gotten. And if you're watching the recording version of this, again, we're grateful for your engagement as well. Take care and have a pleasant evening.